Do you want to learn the tricks that top leaders use to get the most out of themselves and their teams? Well, Naftali Hoff is here to help. Lead to succeed. Picks the brains of top leaders to learn about their challenges, insights, and best practices. Here's Naftali.
Hello, Lead to Succeed Nation. It's Naftali Hoff, and welcome to Lead to Succeed, episode 119. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Mosongo Moukwa. Mosongo is a seasoned executive and consultant who has dedicated his career to helping companies thrive by commercializing new technologies, diversifying their product offerings, and entering new markets. Over 30 plus years in leadership, he has applied his unique talent for identifying leadership gaps and developing the talent and culture necessary for success. Mosongo helps solve important innovation challenges that hold organizations back by unleashing the collective creativity of their people. This results in increased profitability and growth expansion. Mosongo has held leadership positions in R&D and operations at some of the world's most respected brands, including Vice President, Global Technology at SC Johnson. He is currently president at Hathaway Advanced Materials. And Mosongo, I am so excited that you are with me today. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much, Naftali. It's a great pleasure that I'm sitting here having this conversation with you. Looking forward.
Well, I'm looking forward to it as well. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself, your background, your story, how you got here?
Yeah, actually, I got into management, Naftali, somewhat of by accident. I was then a researcher at Northwestern University. So at the end of my research tenure there, I had the opportunity of working for a company in Cleveland. And as I joined there as a principal scientist, the vice president of that department asked me if I wanted to become a manager of the group. So that was somewhat of a surprise to me, although I always wanted to manage and organize people, but I never thought that would come that soon. So, and then from there, I was very fortunate to have that opportunity. I built an organization, I became successful to it, and then I moved on into much senior roles. Now, along that journey, reflecting back, I think really when I look at some of the successful, some of the achievement during my career, I realized that really the work was never about market share or innovation. But instead, reflecting, I came to realize that really the outcome were the result of transformational changes that started from ground up. So that's really, I drew those lessons over the years as I'm reflecting, and I hope to share that with some of your listeners.
So why don't you take us a little bit further into that process of transformation? Why do you feel, number one, that it was so important for you? What kind of transformation in particular are we talking about? Like, who is transformed? Was it your processes, your policies, your people, all of the above? And what were the results of this transformation that you described?
Yeah. First of all, for you to transform an organization, it starts by you transforming yourself. So that's one element. Now, coming back to the organization itself, the key component, Naftali, that I came to learn is that human connection is really the most important piece of any leadership, for that matter. So when you put emotional a connection at your foundation, then you're beginning to discover what people are really capable of. You in fact create the foundation for confidence that could lead to new and exciting things for people, for the company, and for yourself. So you motivate, in other words, you motivate others to achieve something that matters to them and to the company as a whole. So that's one element. But for myself, to be able to achieve this, I've gone myself through my own transformation. For example, in the beginning of my career, one area that I struggled with when I got to that very first job there as a manager is to be able to give feedback, because this was a new team of people. So although I was very good in terms of getting the people energized and excited, but I was very much reluctant in terms of giving feedback. And I came to realize very quickly that that was affecting the standing of the group. It was affecting the productivity, and frankly, it did not do any good for the team members. Because at the end of the day, what I've learned is that employees actually they are seeking that feedback. So you have that transformation at two levels, Naftali.
Fascinating. So I want to hear about. Tell me a success story. Obviously, you have to whitewash it as far as the identity, but is there a story that comes to mind where you had a person who maybe either lacked self-confidence or maybe wasn't demonstrating a particular level of success, and through your transformational leadership style, through your opening up of communication, through your improvement of delivering feedback and other things you were talking about, as a result of that, you started to see their potential really emerge and they become different and sort of take us through that. I'm curious how that played out for you.
Yeah, the example that comes to my mind, Naftali, this is a great question. The example that comes to my mind is that one of the companies I work for, we were trying to expand our position in the digital printing. So we wanted to make some special toners for digital printing. And there was one of the employees in the group. He was always in the background. But as I came to know him, I realized that he was not really excited with the particular area he was involved in at that time. So I called him up and I told him that we have this opportunity to send you to Japan to work with our Japanese colleagues and bring that technology in the US. I told him how the impact that potentially could have on the company, and also it will allow him to expand his own learning. Now I hesitated a little bit because go to Japan to live there for 6 months. That was really something he was not fully prepared with. So he asked me if he could talk to his wife. I said that's fine. He came back the following week, and then he told me that yes, this is something that he thinks he'd be interested in doing. He thinks that he could help the company make an impact. So we agree. We set up the objective, the goals, and I discussed with my counterpart in Japan. So we both agree to provide him the support. So this individual went there. He applied himself. He applied himself tremendously, and then he came back, brought the technology. In the process, he made a lot of friends in Japan, which allow us later on to be able actually to connect with our Japanese colleagues and peers, because that's by itself was a challenge. But when he came back, I actually realized that this individual who was in the background, he was not a star, and here he has emerged as the go-to person, as the expert, and he took upon himself now to teach marketing, salespeople about the technology and so on. So I feel very proud of that for the individual, because you don't always need to be a star to be given an opportunity. Sometimes the people who are in the background there, all they need is just that slight opportunity for them to discover themselves, to grow and make an impact to the organization, and along the process achieve their own professional and personal growth. So that's one example that comes to mind.
So you hit on something indirectly, at least in my own mind, and I'm curious to know how you deal with this, because one of the challenges for any leader, and really for any person in a company, is the balance between me and we, right? So from a leadership standpoint, if a person is successful as an individual and they're trying to get noticed, so they tend to try to build themselves up so that they can be in line for the next opportunity. And then on the other hand, you want your leaders to be we-oriented. And frankly, as a leader, you want your people to be we-oriented so that everybody is thinking collectively, not just individually. So leaving this individual alone for the moment, because it may have been irrelevant there, may not have been, I'm not sure. But just in general, what has been your approach when you're trying to prioritize the collective? How do you get people to buy in, to see the value of prioritizing team over personal growth and success?
Well, I think you have to put it within the context of the overarching vision, and that vision has to be shared in some way. So it should not be my vision. It should not be the individual vision. And so that's number one. Number two is to instill the idea that leadership really is not a solo venture. We can actually it's about how far we go with the help of others. So one of the things that I've done, Naftali, is that with the team of leaders, what I try to do is to create that what I will call social capital. In other words, a kind of a network where they can build some kind of affiliation. And to do that, what I did is that on a regular basis, like on Friday, a group meeting, just me meeting with the leader, I will encourage them to challenge each other, to give suggestions to each other, to bring to each other perhaps what they believe may not go well in the other person group, and so on. So the other one will be sharing with them perhaps one article that we can all discuss and have feedback. So that's one. Because you need to create that bonding among them. What is also important, Naftali, is that to encourage people to know about the stories of others, so that they could begin to know the other people as individuals, not just as colleagues that we are there to do a task. So that seems to have worked, actually.
Yeah, what I like about that, Mosongo, is the fact that you're hitting on something that I think many leaders do learn over time, but may not necessarily realize from day one. And that is, we create. Now, my background is education. I'm a former classroom teacher, a school leader. So I often think about leadership and challenges in the context of what does it look like specifically in the educational space. Mm-hmm. And I tell teachers all the time that they create the environment in their classrooms, and school leaders create the environment in their buildings. And by that, I mean that others are waiting for their permission. Others are waiting for their lead to say what's allowed, what's not allowed, what's encouraged, etc. So if you are just pulling leaders together and say, okay, what are the issues here? What do we need to discuss? And kind of look at it, let's all attack the company's challenges, whether it's a SWOT analysis or whatever it might be. So you're just driving everybody's attention to, the client, the customer, the marketplace, etc., but you're not necessarily directing them towards one another. And you're not saying, well, we as leaders of respective divisions, departments, whatever, we need to be more mindful of breaking down silos, keeping communication strong, supporting one another, calling out each other when we see some kind of issue, because that's ultimately what creates leadership, cohesion, and a flow of information and feedback. And so the leader needs to step into that role and really provide that. So I'm curious to get your take on that, if there's anything you wanted to expand there on that point.
No, you're absolutely right, and I think as while we are helping individuals develop skills, I think we have to put effort towards building that community of leaders. Huh? So that means that those leaders, they have to grow together, they have to learn from each other, they have to stay connected, because at the end of the day, what you would like to achieve is to forge that enduring human connection. Huh? So it gives them a sense of affiliation and then and well-being at the end of the day.
Nice. Okay, so we've talked about some successful moments. What would you say was your weakest leadership moment?
Well, I think, Naftali, if I could recall, there was, if we go back to my very first job, so I was very successful there, new manager, I find my way around, became successful, I got some promotion there, I deliver for the company, And then now I decided, well, really, I would like to make a move because I'm not getting the full satisfaction. I would like to learn other technologies, other market, and so on. So now I moved to another company, and I became a vice president there. And the mistake that I made there, which I can remember, is that I came in. They were under tremendous pressure to deliver innovation and whatnot, because the company was known to be an innovative company. So that pressure was there. So I fell through the trap of coming there. Oh, I was successful. My past job, I came in. So let me try quickly to push people around, get some get some results there, and so on. And my direct report and those the team members, they resented that. They resented that, and I could see that I was just not making any progress. And I'm attributing that because at that time I failed to have self-awareness. I failed to recognize how my behavior was being perceived by others, and that really slowed the impact that I could have made. I should have instead tried to first engage people. So that was
It's so interesting. So interesting that you share that. I'm going to see if I can get this to show up on the screen. This is the first book that I wrote. It's called Becoming the New Boss.
Okay.
And I wrote this book largely because I had the same problem that you're describing. When I first moved into my headmaster position, which was the highest level position in school administration that I ascended to, I also believed in my own press. I also started to take quick action on areas which I felt really were necessary, but did so at the expense of building equity. And the result was a lot of resentment, people not knowing what to make of me, so to speak, some fear and other issues that were raised. And ultimately, it required a tremendous amount of redoing, fixing, trying to reestablish relationships, which had I gone at it differently from day one, I don't think ever would have been an issue. And so I totally hear that. And I thank you for sharing that, because I think it's an issue that a lot of people struggle with. When you are promoted, it's usually for good reason. You have a track record of success. You've demonstrated you know what you're doing. And sometimes you fall, like you said, fall into the trap of thinking you know more than you actually do, or thinking that just because it worked over there, it's automatically going to work over here. And an honest analysis of yourself, of your circumstance, and all of that really can be very helpful. And one of the things I often recommend in my coaching practice is for leaders to take it slow, to establish relationships first, because if people relate to you, then you can really engage in meaningful change. But if they don't, then no matter what you say, no matter how good your ideas are, they're going to find a way to sabotage it, because they don't genuinely believe in you. They feel that you don't have their best interests in mind, all of that. So let me ask you a sort of a pivot question, not necessarily on the topic of leadership. I happen to be a religious person, outwardly so. I think anyone who sees me knows that I'm a person of faith. Tell us about your spiritual side. How do you connect spiritually, and how does that drive your approach to leadership?
Well, I think spiritually, I've learned to see that when you meet someone, it's almost a sign that your paths were meant to cross. So it's also a sign that that you might receive something from that person. I'm saying it because when I look at my own career and my life in general, I just feel in a way that there is almost like an angel. One angel was there. Huh? For example, finding my very first job. That came because some vice president came at the university, and I was giving this individual a tour of the lab. I just happened to ask him whether his company, would hire somebody with my background. So that came that way. My one of the job, I moved to North Carolina here because one of my direct report brought to my attention. He said, "Hey, this particular company here, they've been looking for a vice president to run their R&D and operations. You might actually be qualified there," and so on, because they don't seem to find anybody there. So I find that meeting people, I see them almost like as though there is an angel behind them, so to speak, because it's always like there is something to. It's not accident. It's meant to be that way.
So that's interesting, because it does tie also into my next question, which relates to people. And if you could pick one person that most affected your career trajectory, your life, that had the single greatest impact, who is that person and what did they do for you?
The person who had the greatest impact on my career, I would say my very first boss, my very first manager, who really, so number one, he gave me the opportunity, but this individual was somewhat of a transactional leader, so to speak. But because of that leadership style that he had, I came to learn what leadership.
You learn what not to do. You learn what not to do.
Exactly. So I'm saying he had a tremendous impact on me, because he and I, we had a lots of disagreement, but at the same time I learned many things from him. For example, the idea of having your reporter, your direct report, also helping adjust, supporting each other. So this is something that at the time that even though I hated, that particular setup, but then I came to realize, hey, actually, this was a good thing. So I think it was almost like a kind of leadership crucible, because he did not give much feedback, and when he gave it was always the negative feedback. Never going to get a tap on the back, but if something goes wrong, to quote him, you would know. You would know. So he had an impact in that way. But I should say that there are certainly many people. In one of the job, the CEO, he was a very good coach. So I created that space where I could go to him and for me to tell him that, hey, listen, I'm struggling with this dilemma. Can you help me try to sort it out, because
very
I feel
important.
And he will close all the papers, clean his desk, and then we'll talk. So I always felt, I wish many CEOs were like this.
Yeah.
So that's how it was.
So let's circle back to one thing you were talking about before, because you kind of piqued my curiosity, Mosongo, with it. Yeah. How can somebody who failed in leadership before, because it is unfortunately pretty common for people to fail, especially the first time around, how could they get it right the next time?
Well, I think they have to go through their through self-reflection. That's one thing. So you fail. Try to understand why you fail. But then at the end of the day, I think you have to find you also have to find your own credo, so to speak. Well, what is your leadership philosophy? What legacy would you like to leave? So I would encourage that person to go into that types of reflection. So that's certainly one thing. But I'll also encourage the individual, if he failed as a leader, to try to understand why he failed. So one of the things, certainly I find that people did not perform very well would have been in the area of delegation, for example. The tendency of doing everything rather than empowering others. So there are certainly, I think it will have to be contextual, but the individual has to go through that discovery of self, so to speak.
Okay, and if you are going to give somebody a tip or two on how to delegate better, what would you say are the most important things that people should think about and practice?
Well, I would say delegation does not mean the hands off. You delegate. You have to provide the support. You have to know where you can intervene as a teacher. But you have to try to force the individual to come with the solution, to come with the pathway, how he or she they're going to do that, and allow them to fail, and then bring them back so that they could in turn go through their own self-reflection. So that's what I would say.
You're empowering them to get onto the leadership cycle, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Okay, so we're going to now transition into the rapid fire where the answers are short and succinct. The best investment, Mosongo, you've ever made other than stocks or real estate?
The best investment I made, I think, going for my MBA.
What is the worst mispronunciation of your name that you've ever heard?
I got too many of them. People have said Mushka, Muka. But Mushka is probably the worst because I said, what do they get this?
It's funny because Mushka is actually a girl's name in Yiddish, so I hear that with some regularity in the Hasidic community. Something you're not very good at. What's something you're not very good at?
Something I'm not very good at. I'm not a good dancer, that's for sure.
Not a good. Okay, good to know. A book that you most often gift or recommend?
Oh, the one that I like gifting is The Second Mountain by David Brooks. That's a book I like gifting, yeah.
And then finally, a productivity tip that helps you to get more done.
What I would say, I would look at what are the priorities for the month, but also look at the priorities that I have for that particular week. 2 or 3 things that I need to accomplish on that particular week.
So really say laser focus on those most important tasks.
Yes.
Excellent. Great stuff. Okay, so before I let you go, I'm going to ask you, first of all, to tell everybody how they can find you, how they can connect with you, learn more about your work, and get more inspiration from the things that you're up to.
Yes. I could be seen, I could be connected via LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, Mosongo Moukwa. I'm there. I could be connected my website, mosongomoukwa.com. What else? I'm on Twitter or X at last name. So that the three area where people can connect with me.
Okay, fantastic. And then finally, I'm going to ask you to share with us one final life lesson, something we haven't yet touched on, but you feel would be of great value for our listeners.
Well, one lesson is that life is not a straight line. Life goes into meander. So that's one lesson.
Okay, and how has that played out for you?
That has been my case.
The story of your life.
And that's what I advise some of the younger people when they ask me for advice because they're looking for jobs. I keep telling them life is not straight line. Opportunity might come when you expect the least. So
you're thinking of it this way. I'm thinking of it like up and down. Sometimes I feel like I'm on a roll and then all of a sudden I hit a bump, that kind of thing. So that's certainly there as well. Anyway, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you, to talk with you, to learn from you. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. And I can't wait to get this episode out to everybody so that they can enjoy it as much as I did.
Hey, Naftali, thank you very much for having me. I enjoyed the conversation and I hope to talk to you soon. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye now.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode and for investing in yourself so that you can lead to succeed. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show. Your feedback gives the show more social proof and encourages more folks to listen.